What's going on, everyone? Talen here, and welcome to another DC Unchained video. Alright, so in this one we're going to be looking at Bleez, so I'm going to give you my early impressions of her. I do have her up to S rank, so she is the second character that I decided to rank up to S, and yeah, I'm actually quite happy with her so far. So Bleez has quite a bit of utility, so she seems like she's a little bit lower on the damage side, but she has a good amount of survivability and utility in her skills and passives. So let's go ahead and just take a look at her real fast. So one thing I will note is her skin is, oh, thank you for the Dimension Rift, her skin is pretty cool, and that's actually one of the reasons why I wanted to get her. I have not bought the skin yet, so I can't say if the skin's actually really good or not. I just like the way it looks because I like the angelic look. But anyway, that's one of the main reasons why I got her in the first place. But I also liked her skill animation from the skill trial. For her covers, we do have all of the covers at least unlocked here. For her Valorium, I just have it up to 9 right now. I just have some random ones filled in right now. I haven't really optimized her much yet. It seems like you might want to go with kind of a evade type build on her, because it looks like she kind of needs that little bit of help despite having a good amount of healing on her skills. So let's go ahead and take a look first at her leadership here. So her leadership is an affinity bonus when your character team is composed of characters who do not share types. And then for the team member bonus, she increases vitality of all allies by 50 if the team, again, is not composed of characters that share types, or is composed of characters that do not share types. So the team bonus is okay, I guess. 50 vitality, it's nice to get that bump in health. So definitely is a nice team member bonus. A lot of the characters have the same leadership, so don't necessarily need to use her for leadership. Leadership is okay, but there's better ones out there. Now let's go ahead and take a look at her passives. So her passives right here are pretty interesting. So I do like the variety of passive skills that she has. First off, the passives that I have equipped right now are the ones that I like to use for PvE content, just for doing Unchained missions and leaving her on auto. And basically the first one we have here is it decreases the nearby enemy's attack power by 10% when your EX gauge is at 50% or more. So this is actually really nice. So if you don't run her with her final skill, the skill that uses the EX gauge, you're pretty much always going to have this active. So it's really nice because it helps out her survivability by decreasing the enemy's attack. And of course, it's just required on the EX gauge, not the amount of opponents or amount of kills or anything like that, so it can be used in PvP as well if you decide to go with this passive. Right here, the second one is she gains 10 SP every 3 seconds when her SP gauge is below 30%. So this is actually really nice because it synergizes really well with her skills having short cooldowns, so you can pretty much rattle off her skills quite quickly because the skills will refresh really quick. And then we have right here the Battle Sustenance, which is another nice one as well, because it recovers 10% of your HP for every 8 enemies defeated. Activates every 15 seconds, but that HP heal is really nice, and what I like to do is I will use this passive if I decide to use her, I guess we'll just call it her ultimate skill, the skill that uses her EX gauge, because then I will swap it out for the aggressive fighting spirit, because pretty much my EX gauge will not be at above 50%, especially if I have it on autoplay, because the AI will automatically use that ultimate attack every single time it's available. And then right here, this one is also a very nice passive. It helps her survivability quite a lot because she becomes invincible for 3 seconds when her HP is at 10% or below. It activates once every 60 seconds, but it's pretty much like a cheat death kind of thing, so it's really nice in PvP especially. So if you happen to not switch quick enough, or you're not really fast on tapping the potion button, or if the enemy, your opponent, is using their EX skill, their super or their special skill, and it does like a massive amount of burst damage, you should be able to still survive that, because I don't think that this will protect you if, say, the skill does like a crit and does like 20% of your health in one hit. I believe that will still kill you, but I could be wrong. I haven't noticed yet. So far this has always procced for me and was able to save me. Alright, so next and the last one, which I think is the least desirable passive of hers is it increases her crit rate by 200 and crit damage by 20% for 10 seconds if a nearby enemy is crashed into the wall. So you pretty much have to slam an enemy into the wall for this to activate. She does have a few skills that will launch the enemy a fair distance away from you, and if you're facing a wall, it should crash them into the wall and this will proc, but I'm not sure how reliable it is, so I would personally like the other passives over this one. So that's just one that's always sitting on the back burner for me. I don't hardly ever use that one. And then for the active skills here, so I really like having the Vampiric and Sign and Rage together, because if you use the Sign and Rage, it causes the enemy to bleed, and then you get an extra bonus for the Vampiric skill, and you'll get additional health back when you use that skill, because this is basically just a kind of like life drain kind of skill. So proportionate to the amount of damage dealt, you get 25% of that back as HP. The Sign in Blood, like I said, is just a bleed skill, so it puts a bleed on the opponent, and it lasts for 10 seconds, so the bleed is actually quite strong. So if you level this up, I could see that bleed damage being pretty good, and especially in PvP, this can be quite useful, because if you get your skills interrupted a lot, or if the opponent's playing really passively, if you just kind of shoot them with this from a distance away, thanks for the cover, then you can actually put a bleed on them and they'll just take some residual damage over time. And then we have the Rage Roulette, which is pretty much exactly what it sounds like. You have 3 skills, or it's 3, right? 1, 2, and 3. Yeah, so you have 3 skills here that it will randomly pick when you use this skill. And I like having this skill equipped because it does a decent amount of damage. So the 3 skills that I have right now are my Pve Setup. So basically we have the Vampiric to help keep her alive, keep her HP kind of topped up. We have the Sign and Rage because it's another very short cooldown skill, so I can keep applying bleeds to the opponents, and then of course that will amplify my Vampiric skill. And then the Rage Roulette is there for additional damage. And then finally, the last 2 skills that we have down here, the Blood Barrier is really good for PvP. Basically, she gets super armor and becomes vigilant, so she can't really get knocked out of it. So as long as you're holding down the Blood Barrier, then you'll be reflecting damage back at the opponents while they're hitting you. So it's actually a pretty nice way to get some guaranteed damage on them. But of course, it only increases her defense, so you are still going to be taking a good portion of damage while the skill's active. So that is something to keep in mind. But one of the gear options for this skill that is really nice is, I believe it's this one right here. Yeah, during the duration of the skill, you become invincible, so you can pretty much get some guaranteed damage on the opponent. So that's definitely the skill I would be looking at if I wanted to run this skill. Whoops, run that skill. And like I said, that seems like a PvP skill. I could see it being okay in PvE if you're in a spot where you're taking a lot of damage from a ton of enemies. If you have that invincibility part of it, then you can just activate this, and it could stall or give you some time or something like that to say build up your switch gauge or something, and it will reflect back, of course, some damage. But I think if you don't have the invincibility on it, it's pretty much just going to be useful in PvP. Besides that, I haven't found it to be very reliable in PvE. And then finally, her ultimate skill, the Blood Explosion. I really like this skill. It does a lot of damage, and it has a lot of AoE on it. The only downside is it costs 50 EX, so it's a very expensive skill. So I find that it's not useful, or not really a good idea to have it equipped during PvE content, because pretty much you'll get it off once during your run, or that's what I've noticed. So every time I've left it on auto, she's only gotten around to using this skill once during the entire run. So I'd much rather have a skill that I'm going to get off multiple times equipped opposed to this one. But this is a very strong skill for PvP, because once you build it up, it is a very hard-hitting skill, so you can at least do half of the opponent's health if you catch them with the full skill. If they're already low on health or have a type disadvantage, you can almost one-shot them with this skill, because it does quite a significant amount of damage. Alright, so that is the skills. So, like I said, right here, these 3 skills are the ones I prefer for PvE content. And then when I'm doing PvP type content, I will have this skill, and then I will have this skill in. So this is one setup that I like to use for PvP, because then we have the Vampiric to get some health back. But if you find that the Vampiric's not working for you, that you're getting knocked out of it too much, or you're not getting enough openings, then I will usually have the Sign in Blood here. So this is very flexible, her skill set, for pretty much PvP and PvE. It's pretty much your personal preference because all her skills have a good utility on them. Yeah, so that's pretty much the few options that I use for PvP. So let's go ahead and switch this back here. And then we will be able to do some PvP or PvE. Alright, and I think, I don't remember if I mentioned for the passives here, but then when I go to PvP, because this is my PvE setup for the passives, I like to switch out this one right here. And then I like to switch out, oh no, that's right there. That's what I usually like to keep it as for PvP, because you definitely want that invincible cheat death mechanic there. Alright, so that is her skills. Let's go ahead and switch that back. Alright, so now let's go ahead and show her off a little bit in some gameplay. Alright, so here we are at some Unchained. So we have Unchained Hard, Fortress of Solitude. So I went ahead and just loaded this up. So let's go ahead and do it on auto, and we'll see how Bleez can handle herself here. So as you can see, her skills are on very short cooldown, so she can get those off quite quickly. I haven't found too many characters that have 2 skills that are this short of cooldown, so it's really nice touch for Bleez there, because it fits kind of her motif or mechanic, because she's really bloodthirsty, so she's definitely going to be really savage with her attacks, so kind of shows her relentless nature to just keep pummeling the enemy. Yeah, so there was the Roulette getting one of the other skills, so that was the spikes. I believe the best one to get from the Blood Roulette is the Blood Goo, because it does the most damage. Right there was the Blood Goo. I believe that's the one that does the most damage. But I tend to like the Blood Spikes because it hits a wider area and will hit most of the enemies. And we are getting pummeled pretty good here. Yeah, there we go. See, that hits a lot more of the enemies, which is nice, but I don't think it has as high of a damage modifier on it. And like I was saying, her damage... I tried to dash out of there. But as I was saying, her damage is still a little bit low. So she just makes up for that with being able to cast a lot of skills and then also having the heals. Alright, so let's get rid of this guy, and then we'll switch back. Alright, let's go ahead and switch back, and we'll heal her up, and let her continue. And also, let me know what you guys prefer for when I showcase or show like the gameplay of the characters. Do you like having me just do a solo play on the Fortress of Solitude Hard? Do you want me to do a party gameplay of Fortress of Solitude on Hell mode instead? Because then I'll have 2 other players though, so it won't be, oh wow, we found a gold card, did we? But then we won't be able to see Bleez kind of like, I don't know, fully, because then you'll have the other 2 characters using their skills on the screen as well. But either way, just let me know what you guys would prefer, because I don't mind running either of them. But as of right now, until I guess I get better Valorium or I play manually, right now Hard Fortress of Solitude seems to be the best place for me to let them solo it. I think Hell, or the Hell mode Unchained for the very first floor can be cleared just as easily as this, but that's because the enemies are a lot weaker than the ones on the Fortress of Solitude, just in terms of like the raw damage and stuff like that. But anyway, there's a little bit of gameplay there of the PvE content, so now we're going to go ahead and jump into some PvP content. And what do we get? We got a flashcard, eh? Alright, actually, I think I had enough flashcards already. I would have preferred something else. But anyway, gold card is a gold card. I'm definitely not going to complain about that. So let's go ahead and jump into the PvP now. Alright, so here we are again at the AI battle. So we're going to go ahead and jump in here as a test for her PvP type abilities. So I went ahead and switched around her build, so I equipped the 3 skills that I said that I prefer for PvP content, and then also changed out one of her passives for the invulnerability one. So let's see, we got a level 8 that we're going against, so hopefully they'll be all level 60s, so we can have kind of a more even playing field here and show off Bleez a little bit better, or maybe not show her off and get our butts kicked. But either way, let's go ahead and see. Okay, well, they are level 60, but they are not S rank. Alright, so that's one good thing about the grab, as you can see there, is it does hold them in place, so it can't interrupt their skills. And now if we go ahead and... oh, are we stunned here? Now we could go ahead and activate this blood barrier. As you can see, they are taking damage, and we are taking reduced damage. And now we'll go ahead and use her ultimate. So as you can see, it's got a wide range, and it does, yeah, a lot of damage. I mean, if that Superman was an S rank, it probably would not have killed him, but it still does a lot of burst damage even on S rank opponents. Because I did have an S rank opponent actually just a little bit earlier when I was just testing her out to see which skills I liked best in PvP. But anyway, that was just a very short and brief showcase, I guess, of her in PvP. So definitely a well-rounded character. So I think she's mainly kind of a utility character with like 1 or 2 skills that are good for damage. But overall, I think she has below average damage in terms of the other heroes, or I guess other villains, with the other characters in the game. But yeah, I still think that she is worth ranking up. I do really like playing as her. She's really good on autoplay. She has a good kit to keep her alive. She, like I said, does enough damage that she can still get through all of the content, so I've never had any problems running parties on Hell Fortress of Solitude with her and having her die or anything like that, except maybe a few times if someone had like left or disconnected and then it's just 2 of us. But overall, a very solid character, and quite happy to have her as my second S-rank character. So, like I said, if there's anything different that you guys want me to go over in these kind of early impression, early build videos of the characters, let me know. But so far, this is kind of the format that I've been sticking with, and I'm pretty much just going to do characters as I get them to level 60 and at least A rank, because my gold card influx is not very high right now, so I'm not getting enough gold cards to keep S ranking characters very quickly, so it'd be a little bit easier for me to just put out videos at A rank. But anyway, let me know your guys' thoughts, and I hope you enjoyed the video nonetheless, and I will, yeah, catch you guys in the next one.